Robin's checking out. My Batman's still on the floor.
The Memphis Grizzlies at number 8, the Golden State Warriors at number 7. With the winner here facing the 2-seed Houston Rockets. Here's Morant.
Oh, he did that on purpose.
And he got it to go. How in the world did he pull that off?
He threw it off the backboard to himself.
It's amazing.
A la Tracy McGrady.
There's going to be ups and downs, all right? But let's remember the game plan.
We know he's known as playoff Jimmy, but tonight he's going to have to be playing in Jimmy.
Butler got it. Oh! An acrobatic play. 21 for Jimmy Butler.
Morant to the left baseline, pull up 10-footer is good. He gets hit. Uh-oh. Morant is clutching his right ankle as he goes down.
And they're taking out Morant.
12 minutes. 12 minutes of relentless play. Every loose ball, every 50-50 ball.
And look at this. John Morant coming back in here. Going to try to give it a go.
Here he is, Morant, setting to tie, and he does with the beautiful mid-ranger. Butler with the move. Green, Curry, 3, good! It's Curry off the screen, fakes, fires, stuck it! And that's it. The Golden State Warriors will hold on to the number 7 seed.
Steph, that is the sign of a true superstar on a night that's not your night to do what you did down the stretch. That's who you are. It's just incredible. You know, whether it's your night or not, it's just like every night you come through, and it's amazing.
That's what we asked for, and we had to go earn it. So it's nice to win a play-in game too.
I think any team has a chance when I'm on the team, but I know every team has a chance if Steph's on the team. So I get to play Robin. That's my Batman, and I don't know who else is. We got all the villains over there, Two-Face and Joker and Riddler, everybody else in the Western Conference. But we got a lot of games to win. Peace.
Well, that was a fun game for sure. And joining us now, our Warriors reporter, Youngmisuk. Jimmy and Steph, they played some heavy minutes throughout the past 2 games. They're both dealing with some nagging injuries here. What should fans expect from them in this series against this young Rockets team?
Well, I think what you've seen in the last 2 games could perhaps be a formula for Golden State to try to win. What you've seen is Jimmy Butler pretty much take over the game in the first 3 quarters. Against the Clippers in a must-win game, he had 24 points. And then Steph, I believe, had like 18 in the 4th. And then against Memphis in the last game, it was Jimmy with like 34 through the first 3 quarters. And then Steph taking over in the end in the 4th quarter. Really what Jimmy's able to do is kind of help Steph stay fresh for that 4th quarter. And that's going to be a must against Houston. The last time they faced Houston, it was very clear the Rockets went out, and to maybe quote a Batman villain, as Jimmy Butler would say, they were like Bane. They just went out to try to punish Steph Curry. He basically had 3 points, 1 for 10. Now, I will say, I'm not going to make excuses for the Warriors, but that game was at the end of a 4 games and 6 nights. They had just gotten back from a 2-week trip on the road, so they were tired and exhausted. But you know, with Thompson, with Brooks, they're going to throw guys consistently at Steph and try to beat him up. They're going to need Jimmy to kind of be what he did in those first 2 games and really give them a boost in those first 3 quarters.
Yeah, the non-Steph minutes, right? That's always something throughout his tenure really in Golden State that we've talked about, and Jimmy Butler has certainly helped with that. But something we've talked about on set is whether or not Jonathan Kuminga, who we did not see play in those play-in games, is someone that maybe Steve Kerr could go to in this series. What have you heard on that front?
So Jonathan Kuminga had a DNP in the 2 biggest games of the year for the Warriors, and really Steve Kerr has just said he's tried to shorten his rotation and go back to what was working when, unfortunately, Kuminga was out. The Warriors played their best basketball. It's kind of become a little bit of a sensitive subject. Steph Curry kind of bristled a couple weeks ago when people were asking how Kuminga's looking. He said, this is like the only guy that we ever ask, whenever he has a good game or bad game, how did he look? And Steve Kerr kind of bristled too, and he was asked the other day, have you talked to Jonathan Kuminga after not playing him? He said, no, and that was it. That was the answer. But Kuminga's had some of his best games this season against the Houston Rockets, including a 33-point outing against them.
Right.
They might be able to use him in this series because he is their one athletic young guy who perhaps can match some of the young athletic guys on that other side.
And we do know that Steve Kerr, he does have a tendency to go to certain guys for certain matchups and not play them in the series and then go back to a different guy in another series. It's very matchup dependent. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did see Kuminga at some point in this series. He just has to, as UD always says, stay engaged with this group, which can be an incredibly tall task for a young player. All of us would have said the status of Damian Lillard and what that means for the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the biggest questions heading into the playoffs. Now that we have some answers on that front, what is the biggest question remaining?
We don't ever seem to talk about the Celtics, and that's a compliment to them because the Celtics have handled their business so well as champions. The big question to me in this whole postseason is anybody going to be good enough to beat the Celtics 4 out of 7? Not when they have a bad shooting night, not when they may lose focus in the fourth quarter, which they're sometimes prone to do because they get ahead. Can you beat them 4 out of 7 times? I just want to point out, last year in the playoffs, they went 16-3. At one point, they won 10 straight games. And while I do believe a number of teams have made strides on them, they have not weakened at all. If anything, they have strengthened, especially with their starting 5. So to me, that's a huge question. The other thing is, who might be there to meet them if they can get through the East? Who can win this Western Conference? I can make a case for 5 or 6 or 7 different combinations.
I would say 6, yeah.
Well, I can't even say who's going to get to the conference finals. Like, I favor the Thunder, but I can make a case for we could have a whole bunch of different combinations in the Western Conference finals. The unknown in the West is what makes this next few weeks going to be very exciting.
I mean, Cleveland has dominated the East all year, so we're not taking nothing away from them. They have a hell of a year, but I truly think that the combination that they're going to have to go with is Hunter at the 4. I really don't like the Mobley switching on to Jason Tatum. I don't like the Mobley. I know he's a great defender, but he just has trouble guarding Jason Tatum. I mean, he gets to his pull-up right here over a 7-foot guy. Now he ISOs him, steps back once again over a 7-foot guy. So he's getting all his shots, and this takes nothing away from Mobley. Jason Tatum is one of the greatest in the game, but I truly think this is not going to be a 2 big series. If they see the Boston Celtics, it's going to be a 1 big series, and Hunter is going to have to play a huge part.
There's sort of been these titans, right, at the top of each conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder and then the Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference. But, Brian, you've said it repeatedly. It seems like 2 through 7 in particular in the Western Conference is separated by a matter of degrees, and it depends on the day, Shams. How are teams preparing for this jockeying within this crowded middle of the West?
I'll give an example. Someone that I know around the Timberwolves was like, why are we looked at as such underdog to the Lakers? We have 1 less loss than them.
That's right.
And you look at the standings and how jumbled up these are. Oklahoma City, Houston, Los Angeles, the Lakers, the Clippers even, Denver, Minnesota, Golden State. I think, 7 teams? I think all 7 of those teams can give themselves, I mean, maybe Houston, right? This is their first foray into this. They have a younger team. But all those other teams are going into this playoffs like, we want to make it to the finals.
Right.
And that mentality, you talk about parity in the NBA. I mean, that's pretty remarkable that you can have 7 teams make a case that we can get to the finals.
People around the Timberwolves are saying that, but we know that Anthony Edwards is never just afraid of saying that thing out loud. He did just that. Take a listen.
How does that make you feel? Do you feel like you guys have been overlooked, especially making a Western Conference Finals run last year?
No, I love it. Yeah.
Why?
I just love it. Yeah, it's dope. I mean, I love the fact that everybody want the Lakers to win. That's how it's supposed to be. They don't want the Timberwolves to win. I get it.
Is never short on confidence. Now he has an even bigger chip on his shoulder heading into this series with the Lakers. LA is favored to win, but the 2 teams split their season series, and this is for sure going to be one of the more competitive ones. What would be let's try that one more time, Brian. What would be considered a success for the Lakers this postseason?
If they can show that their new grouping of perimeter stars, which is obviously Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, can fit together beautifully and be a competitive group, and they can share each other's load and also show that they can fit together. Because I don't necessarily, my expectation for the Lakers is that they will be at their best next year when they can make some transactions in the offseason, build up their size. In all honesty, if you look at the history of basketball, a team with this, weakness and depth issue inside has never really won at a high level. That's not to say that they can't, but they're fighting against reality of the sport right now. But if Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves can be so great together, they push the teams to the limit and maybe even get to the conference finals, then their future looks even brighter. And that's what I really think their realistic opportunity is.
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of people who are unrealistic, but I will say this. 2 years ago, they were in the play-in, and I would have been sitting here on this day saying, well, if they get to the playoffs, they're doing well. They made it to the conference finals. So underestimating LeBron has never been a good way to go forward in the playoffs.
I mean, we got to give credit where credit due. JJ was able to quiet the noise. They were able to get home court, so they have had some success this year. I don't know if anybody really was able to anticipate that. We didn't know what that was going to be. That was a huge question mark. So we have to give them that success, but I agree with you. They're going to struggle when it comes to points in the paint and going against those bigs. If you look at all the upper echelon teams, OKC has 2 bigs. Houston has 2 bigs. Denver has jokers. So if they ever have to see one of those teams along the line, they just can't compete with that.
Oh, and they knew that that was their deficiency when they went out and tried to get Mark Williams, and obviously that trade didn't come to fruition. We know what Luka Doncic prefers. They know that that's sort of the piece that they need. We'll see how far they can go with this roster.